And you just wrote a book.
I did.
Is this your first book?
It is.
Because it looks quite interesting, and thank you. Oh, by the way, I did receive 2 copies. This is the book. I think you can see it. I'm trying to shade it the way you can see the book, and I think my producer's saying perfect. So, what made you? Well, first of all, now Utah, what is your previous history of you? Because you've had quite a fascinating. Is that a fascinating life?
Thank you. So I served as Nevada's Attorney General. I practiced.
Attorney General. Wow.
Yes, I practiced law for 30 years, and 10 years ago, I was appointed by Governor Gwynn to serve as Nevada's Attorney General.
Oh, how wonderful.
And
what went through your mind, and how did you feel when you know you're building yourself up to, obviously, to increase whom you are, and when that actual point comes, how do you kind of feel? I mean, you must be so excited and sort of all the, hullabaloo and everything. Then you go home.
it was a huge honor and a wonderful experience. I learned a great deal and had an opportunity to serve the citizens of Nevada, and I had an opportunity to argue before the United States Supreme Court on behalf of Nevada, and won 9-0, and that was an extraordinary moment. And
what's the 190? What is that? What does that mean?
I won my argument by a unanimous decision of the United States Supreme
I'm
Court.
asking that question because I know a lot of you don't know what it is. Neither do I. I just found out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so people understand what that was.
Yes.
Okay. So you won.
Yes, so few attorneys have the opportunity to actually argue before the United States Supreme Court. It's a very rare opportunity. And,
so what made you do that?
well, Nevada had a case, and it was appealed to the United States Supreme Court, and they granted cert to hear the case.
Okay.
And ultimately, because I was the Attorney General at the time,
Yes.
I had the honor of representing the state of Nevada in that argument. And it was
What was the argument? Can I say what the case was? Or is
Sure.
it closed?
Yeah, it was Wharton versus Bakhting. It was a fascinating case involving kind of a controversial subject. This was it was a question of the Confrontation Clause under the Sixth Amendment, and whether or not you had the right to confront witnesses against you, which normally you do.
Yes.
Going back to the beginning of our history, even Roman times before that, people had a right to confront their witnesses. And here the witness was a 6-year-old girl who had been sexually molested by her stepfather. And the stepfather was complaining that he did not have an opportunity to cross-examine the little girl. And I represented the little girl. And
what a heartwarming story.
Yeah.
And you won
and
for her.
I won unanimously.
How was she? Because obviously she's underage. So how was she able to be the witness? Because that's a little tricky.
Yeah, exactly. So in this case, she was called to testify at court, and she froze up because her stepfather was there. And
he'd obviously told her not to say anything, or this is the story.
So the judge decided that he would declare her technically unavailable because she was refusing to speak. She was refusing to testify. And under then existing U.S. Supreme Court authority, she was allowed to, the testimony that she had given to her mother and to the police department and to the hospital was allowed to come into evidence even though she refused to testify at trial. And the reason for that was that under then existing U.S. Supreme Court authority, she was declared unavailable, and her testimony to these third parties had what they called extrinsic evidence of reliability. In other words, there were supporting indicators that confirmed the validity of her statements to these third parties. There was medical forensic examination that confirmed that what she was saying was true. And so her statements to those third parties were allowed to come into evidence. And
you were able to bring all that into evidence.
Yes.
That must have been an awful lot of research and a lot of understanding the law as to how far you could go to win a case about a 6-year-old, because that's not easy.
Yes.
I know that because I've had cameras going into juvenile hall. I know a little bit about what goes on with kids.
Yes.
And everybody says, "Oh no, the kid doesn't know. The kid's always the dumb, stupid idiot one that doesn't know because they're young enough." And
yes.
And had he threatened her if she said anything?
Well, we don't really know that.
No.
That didn't come into evidence.
Didn't have to.
Didn't have to.
And how long does a case like that go on? Well, how long did yours go on?
Well, that case went on for years. This man ultimately had been in jail for almost 2 decades and had properly been convicted by Nevada courts and was sitting in jail for almost 20 years. And then a new Supreme Court decision had been rendered, and he appealed based on that new Supreme Court decision, asking for a retrial. And ultimately, we persuaded the court that he was properly convicted under the then existing Supreme Court authority, and that the change in rule did not necessitate a new trial.
You know, I'm listening to how you're explaining how everything is, and I'm also listening to a lot of stuff that's going on in Washington.
Yes.
And I'm watching how they handle all these things and how long they stretch everything out, and
Yes.
how you have to go through this and then that, then this and this and this and this.
Yes.
To me, I look at it all as a layman.
Yes.
I look at it and say, what a complete waste of time.
Yes.
And the time you get to where you started with, you've probably forgotten what you were doing in the first place.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to say you don't, because you don't forget. But at the same time,
Yes.
why do they, I mean, I'm watching what they're doing, and I'm not talking about Trump, I'm just talking about politics of what they were. And they sort of got this case going on with Russia and
Yes.
Trump. And this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yes. So I have a very healthy disdain for politics at this point.
Okay, well, let's have this.
Yeah, I think that it's a very dysfunctional and toxic environment. And
It is, isn't it?
Yes. So
They should be picking up everything they possibly can that's not even there.
yes. So I had been appointed by Governor Gwynne to serve the remainder of Brian Sandoval's 2-year term. Sandoval had been Attorney General. He had been appointed a federal judge, created a 2-year vacancy. Gwynne appointed me to fill the vacancy. And at the end of 2 years, after completing my term, even though I had raised 5 times as much money as my opponent at the time was Catherine Cortez Masto, who is now a United States Senator. I had raised $1.2 million in 3 months, and
That's
she
a
had
lot of money
she had
to
raised
raise.
$165,000. So I had a 5-to-1 fundraising advantage, and I was the incumbent. I decided, because politics was so dysfunctional and so toxic, that I wanted no part of it. So I gave all the money back, and I actually raised money for Catherine.
What a beautiful story that is. So you
Yeah.
raised money for your
My opponent.
Your opponent.
Yeah, yeah.
Not many people would do that. So I have to turn around and say, George, you're very ethical.
Well, thank you.
You are. That's
Thank you.
an ethical thing to do. Understanding the situation of what you certainly didn't want. So if I don't want it,
Yeah.
let me give it to her. How beautiful is that?
Yeah.
Because that's definitely not politics.
No.
That's definitely it's not politics. Now, on all this, you've written this book, and it's of Seize Your Destiny.
Yes. So what happened, the reason for the book...
So the book, yeah, I want to know why.
The genesis of the book is that 5 years ago, I had a heart attack.
Oh.
And as a consequence of the heart attack, at the time, I had a 16-year-old daughter. And I thought, well, what if I die? What if I have another heart attack? And so I put my affairs in order, and after putting my affairs in order, I wanted to also leave her some of my knowledge and some of my wisdom that I had acquired over the years. So I began to write a letter. And in writing that letter, I like to write, and all of a sudden I looked down and I was at 100 pages.
Uh-oh.
And I realized...
This is good for a book.
And I realized this is not really a letter, this is more of a book. And I thought that the book could have application beyond my daughter. I thought that it could help other young people.
Yes.
So everything that I was trying to tell my daughter in the event of my death, I wanted to tell other young people. And so I took the letter and I continued to write, and I elaborated it. I fleshed out areas. I did additional research.
I was going to say you probably rewrote a lot of the stuff.
Absolutely.
And suddenly realized that this is now going to the audience.
Exactly.
Out there, so
Exactly.
this is no longer a personal.
I turned it into a book, and
A
ultimately.
lot of it's dedicated to her.
Yes,
obviously.
and left her the book as part of my legacy to her. And there are 17.5 million fatherless children in the United States. There are 4 million homeless children in the United States.
Well, how about 16,000 homeless children in Nevada?
Yeah. So they need
So
guidance.
I'm trying to get a whole group together to help these children, because I don't think there should be one single child, especially Vegas.
Yes.
Because there's more money in Vegas.
Yes.
Than you could shake. And I'm thinking, why do we have that?
Yes.
And people in politics don't want anybody to know that they've got 16,000 children here that are homeless. They live under the freeways you drive over. They're underneath there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's sad.
Yeah, and so a lot of these young people are not getting the guidance that they
No.
need.
No.
They're not getting the parenting that they need, And we're living in a rapidly changing and radically changing environment, and it's difficult. It's difficult for
us. Never
it's
our
difficult
children.
for us. It's difficult for
Never mind
us.
the kids.
You know, yeah, exactly. So imagine if you're homeless and you don't have the support of a family, or you know, your father isn't part of your life.
No. A lot of fathers aren't.
A lot
these
of fathers
days.
aren't these days.
No.
And so I thought, you know, something, I can make a contribution to society without
contribute to these children.
without being in politics. I don't need to be in politics to help, right?
Well, nobody needs to be in politics to help. Believe me,
Yes,
nobody.
yes. So I thought, you know, what can I do? And the skill set that you use as a lawyer is you research,
Yes.
you write, and you speak. And so I'm using the same skill set. I'm researching, I'm writing, and I'm speaking, and I'm offering whatever guidance I can to people who are struggling and trying to get by, and how they can prosper, how they can thrive, how they can have a meaningful life.
You know, there's a lot of homeless, that we have more homeless now than probably ever before.
Yes.
What is the main thing that you could tell somebody, and especially the younger generation, because they're kind of a bit fuzzy, haven't had that upbringing. What's the greatest thing you could tell them to get out of the mess they're in, that they really didn't put themselves into, but they're in it?
Okay, well, the first thing I think that you have to start with is your mindset, right?
Okay.
So
mindset.
how you think about life. And, you know, there's a lot of discussion historically in self-help and personal development.
Yeah,
they talk about a positive mindset, right?
Yeah.
So you do need a positive mindset, but it's not enough to say that you simply need a positive mindset.
To get you out of where you are.
To get you out of where you are. So and just telling you that you should be empowered and that you should be positive and that I see greatness.
That's all great, those are all words.
And building you up is great.
Yes.
But
now the next step.
But it's not
enough.
It's not as lasting, right? So in order for you to have a true positive mindset, it has to come from experience.
Within.
Yes, from within and from your personal experience. So what I like to talk about is the idea of taking how baby steps can turn into powerful strides.
You're right.
Right?
Yes.
So you imagine a baby climbing a staircase.
Correct.
Right?
Gets to
and
the top.
they get over the first step, and then they get to the second step,
And
and
they
they
get
start to
excited.
look around, and they start to get excited. And then they move farther up, and they're looking back at their parents, and they're even more excited. And then they make it to the top.
And then they see the top.
And there's a true sense of
And they want to go there.
and they want to go there, and not only do they want to go there, but they realize that they can get there because they've just gone several steps
so they've
up.
got all through there.
And each baby step builds that confidence and builds that self-awareness in your ability and gives you the courage to keep pushing and keep moving forward. And at the end, you see the baby looking at the top of the stairs, looking back down, and thrilled with themselves and their accomplishment. That kind of positive thought process is an earned positive thought process. It's a real positive thought process.
That's a real positive, and I'm going to explain why. Listening to George is that you can't go from here to there in one step.
Exactly.
Is what he's saying. And the perfect example is a set of stairs. How many steps are there? There seems a lot when you're down here, but when you take the first step, it's like I was just doing a catalogue with a young lady, and we were doing pages, and I said, we've only got 90 left. It wasn't, and it was, now we've got 60 left.
Yeah.
But it was the total opposite rather than, we've only done 30. It was the opposite to that. So your message, a great message, is a step at a time.
Yes.
Because that will give you the encouragement for the next step.
Yes. And baby steps turn into powerful strides.
Aren't we both still doing those steps?
Absolutely.
So don't think just
We're doing it right now.
That's what I'm saying.
You and I are doing it right now.
We're doing it right now as of taking steps to the next place and to the next level, because that's how life works. You don't know everything. I mean, I could turn around and say I've done a lot in life, and I have, and you have.
Yes.
We've both done a lot in life, but we're not finished yet.
No.
Because we've still got some more steps to climb.
Yes.
That we actually look forward to. I look forward to my steps.
Yes. And every step that you take, whether it ends in success or failure, you learn something from that. You either learn your capability and the possibilities that are there for yourself, or you learn that you can experience failure and persevere and move beyond it. And in either event, you learn, and you build your self-esteem, and you build the awareness of your ability, and it allows you to continually progress forward. So moving out of your comfort zone, taking action. I like to say action is magic. Taking action. Taking action is critical, and over time you will build the kind of confidence and self-image and self-respect required to reach your goals.
You know, George has been an amazing guest, and he's given us a lot of inspiration. So, you know, being homeless is really just the beginning of a life again, and it's trying to achieve it. It's like when you are born and you crawl and you laugh and you giggle and you start walking.
Yes.
And
exactly.
it's the same sort of thing. So if you're homeless out there, don't completely give up, because you can make that first step and be excited, and the next step, and other people might put you down or do whatever they do, and just use your own instinct,
Yes.
your own place where you
Yes.
want to go. Everyone in the entire world, you know, every fingerprint in this entire world is different. So we are too.
Yes.
We're totally different. How can people get your book?
Amazon.com.
Amazon.com.
It's called Seize Your Destiny, and it's available on Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com. And it's life advice. It's choices that you make in life that can lead to a happy, successful, and meaningful life. And it's something that I hope can enrich your life and the lives of those that you love.
Wonderful. How can anybody get hold of you? Are you reachable?
Sure. I'm reachable at GeorgeJChanos.com.
And George Chanos has been an inspiration to the younger generation, the older generation, and the middle generation, to all humanity out there. You are a humanitarian person of what you do. Absolutely amazing. I'm so honored to have you on the show.
I'm very
Thank
grateful for
so
you
much.
to have me.
We'll be right back. Take care.
Thank you.